Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and we are working with rigid bodies constraints, and we're working with the spring constraint. Okay, so now we've got one that's really interesting, that's a little more complicated to actually use. It's harder to control, but it's pretty fun. So we've got an object that you can see up here. You can use a spring constraint to create effects like a man jumping off a building, off a bungee. But I'm thinking of maybe a game that you used to use a paddle ball and rubber ball connected to a paddle that's connected to a rubber band. I used to do that as a kid, and I was wondering if we could go ahead and actually try to recreate that. It's a lot harder to do than it sounds, but let's go ahead and give it a shot. Our scene, alright, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create the effect real quick first in case we don't get the paddle ball thing working. So let's go ahead and add that in there. Let's move that up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go in here and create fields and solvers, and we're going to go into the spring constraint. We go ahead and reset it and click on spring. Do we want to set initial position for it? Sure, let's actually not do it, and let's go ahead and create that initial spring. There we go. Just move that straight up. So we'll just add the gravity to this real quick, and let's take a look and see how it looks. Okay. Alright, see, you can see it bouncing around. Alright. Okay, so what we can do with that is go ahead and go into the rigid bodies and make the mass a little bit higher. Let's say 10. Let's go ahead and recreate that. So now the mass is a lot harder, or a lot higher. You could call it weight if you want to, a little more weight to it. There we go. So you can see that bouncing around. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit less weight. There we go. Okay. So let's bring that back to 1. Alright, so that's basically the spring effect. There's not much more to it. Okay? You can change the dampening of it, so if I were to add a lot more weight to it, okay, and we would turn the dampening up to something like 1, you can see the reaction that would have again. Okay, there we go. Right, so it seems less floaty. Seems like it's a very heavy ball. Okay, alright, so let's turn the dampening off right now with that, and let's go ahead and try to recreate the rubber ball effect, and that's going to be a lot more difficult than it seems. Let's go ahead and click on this guy right here. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to create it right in the center. Alright, and we're going to go ahead and flatten that out and kind of create a shape, more of a elongated shape, and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, let's make this all one object and see if this will work better for us. Let's go ahead and extrude that and make this the handle. Okay, and just for sake of argument, we create kind of a handle like this. There we go. Alright, so center pivot's still there, so let's hopefully it will still see that. Let's try it that way. So is this still passive? I don't even know if I went back too far, so I'm going to create another passive rigid body. Yes, there we go. And then we've got the ball. Shift select the paddle. Let's see if this will work. And spring constraint. and it still did it right there. It finds the center of this object no matter what. Okay, whatever. And so let's go ahead and add the gravity to that. Fields and solvers. Let's add its own gravity this time. Here we go. And will it see the ball now that I animate that? So I'm going to go ahead and animate that paddle. I'm going to go ahead and move that pivot point right here. And I'm going to animate this. So set a keyframe on here, S key, and now I'm going to hit that ball. Set a key. So let's go back. Control Z. And at frame 10, okay, let's move that, rotate that like that. Set a key. And at frame 20, move it back again, like that. Set a key. Frame 30. Set a key. Frame 40. Move back up again, and see what we get here. Go back. And there we go. It works. It's just, that's weird. So yeah, it worked for a little bit, and then it goes, whoa, I don't see that geometry. It looked like it went around it. See if it actually worked here. It did, but then it goes up and around. Okay, so it's seeing the object. Okay, so it's a little complex here. Try to get that in the center. Now you may want to figure it out somehow so when you create it, so you go into field solvers and go into the spring constraint, set initial position. So you need to find out where that position is and set it properly. So you could probably put the paddle, in the center, and then figure out where the center of this is if it wants to see the center over here. It's offset somehow. So you might be able to figure it out that way. It does work. It's just centered wrong. The position's not centered right. So you can go ahead and figure that out and mess with it. But right now it does work. Kinda. Alright? Pretty cool. So there's some cool things you can do with it. Alright, so the next one is the barrier, so I'll see you in the next video.